A vacation interrupted. The reckoning of a federal agent. The plan was simple. A serene escape from the relentless grind of federal cases, and Dr. Evelyn Reed's thriving surgical practice. A week of blissful anonymity, far from deadlines, threats, and the suffocating weight of case files. But as Marcus Thorne and his family, Evelyn, their 13-year-old son Ethan, and 9-year-old daughter Lily, unloaded their Range Rover in front of the quaint rental house in Starling Cove, Florida, an unspoken message hung in the air: "You don't belong here." An elderly couple had passed by moments before, their gazes sharp and unwelcoming. Marcus, ever the diplomat, offered a polite, practiced nod, which was met with chilling silence. Don't give them an opening, he thought, a familiar unease stirring within him. "Just let it be," Evelyn murmured, sensing the tension. Then the first patrol car materialized, crawling down the street, its occupant stare fixed on their house. A second cruiser pulled up and stopped, an officer emerging, his hand resting conspicuously on his service weapon. Marcus knew the feeling instantly, the cold dread of being a target. "I'm just walking to the curb," he said, his voice a low rumble meant to carry. "Make sure they see my hands." He moved with deliberate calm, offering the officer a nod that was met with stony glare. As he walked back, Ethan's voice, trembling slightly, reached him from a porch. "Dad, he's still watching." Marcus's eyes swept the scene. One officer out, one still in the vehicle. A classic containment strategy for a family unloading groceries. Before Evelyn could even pull up the property manager's number, two more cruisers roared around the corner, siren silent, boxing in their Range Rover. This wasn't response. It was a raid. The quiet street was suddenly bathed in the silent, strobing flashes of red and blue. That's when Sergeant Decker, the older cop, finally shattered the silence. Not a question, but command. "You on the porch? Down here now. Show me your hands." Lily let out a sharp cry and clung to her mother, while Ethan flinched back. Marcus moved immediately, a protective shield for his family, slowly raising his hands, palms out. "Officer, there's no need for this. My name is Marcus Thorne. We're renting this house for the week." A cruel smirk twisted Decker's lips. "Got one," his eyes seemed to say. "I'm sure you are. Turn around. Hands behind your back." "I am a federal agent," Marcus stated, his voice now cold as iron. "My credentials are in the glove compartment of that Range Rover. I strongly suggest you—" He never finished. Decker gave a sharp nod. The younger officer, Miller, charged the porch, grabbing Marcus and slamming him face first against the railing. A knee drove hard into Marcus's back, forcing the air from his lungs. The last thing he heard before the cold steel of the cuffs bit into his wrists was his son's horrified gasp. "Marcus!" Evelyn screamed, fumbling with her phone. "I have the rental confirmation right here. Look." She held the phone out like a shield, its screen glowing. Decker stalked onto the porch, snatched the phone from her grasp, and without even glancing at it, contemptuously tossed it onto a nearby wicker chair. "You can show it to the booking sergeant," he sneered, grabbing her arm. "Right now you're interfering." "Interfering? You're assaulting my husband and terrorizing my children," she yelled, as he twisted her arm behind her back, cuffing her in front of her sobbing daughter. Forced to his knees on the manicured lawn, Marcus looked up. He saw his wife, a respected doctor, being manhandled. He saw his children frozen in fear. He saw the smug, self-satisfied smirk on Sergeant Decker's face. Fury, a white-hot furnace, ignited inside him, but 15 years of training built a cage of ice around it. They didn't see a family. They saw a target, and they had no idea the hell they had just called down upon themselves. The entire street had gone quiet. Behind twitching curtains, neighbors watched the grim show. No one came out. No one spoke up. "You are making a catastrophic mistake." Evelyn cried out, her cheek pressed to the splintery wood of the porch. "The rental agreement is on the kitchen counter." Decker wasn't listening. He was savoring the moment. On the grass, Marcus tried to reason with the younger officer, Miller, whose knee was still planted in his back. "Listen to me. My name is Special Agent Marcus Thorne. I am with the FBI. You have the right to remain silent," Miller recited, his voice a nervous monotone. Near the front door, Ethan stood trembling, his arm around his little sister. "My mom didn't do anything," he whispered. Can I go to her?" Decker shot the boy a venomous look. "Get back in the house." "But that's my mother." Ethan's voice cracked with anguish. Marcus's own voice rose, tight with rage. "The boy is 13 years old. Let him check on his mother. He is not a threat to you." Decker ignored him. Turning back to Evelyn, "Let's see some ID." "It's in my purse inside," she spat, her fear burning away into pure anger. "Along with everything else you're too damn arrogant to check." "You watch your mouth with me," Decker warned. "You get to point guns at my family, and I have to be polite? You're breaking the law." "We got a call," Decker finally said, his voice laced with implication. Neighbor reported a B&E in progress. Said a vehicle with no tags was being unloaded by persons of interest. Marcus let out a low, bitter laugh from the ground. "Persons of interest? Let me guess, Sergeant. A black family in this neighborhood? That's the description, isn't it?" Decker's jaw tightened. The silence was an admission. "If you are who you claim to be," Decker finally grunted, yanking Marcus to his feet, "you can explain it all downtown." They dragged him toward the nearest cruiser. Marcus locked eyes with his son. "Ethan, you listen to me. Don't you let them see you're scared. You look after your sister. You're the man of the house until we're back." Ethan, tears streaming down his face, managed a firm nod, trying to stand tall for his father. As they shoved Marcus into the back seat, he saw the younger cop, Miller, hesitate by the Range Rover. "Sarge, the glove box. It's open a crack. I think I see some kind of wallet." "Leave it," Decker barked, not even bothering to look. "If he's lying, we'll enjoy finding out the hard way." He doesn't want to know, Marcus realized with chilling clarity. The truth would ruin his fun. He sat in the stifling heat of the cruiser, the plastic cuffs digging into his wrists. His heart wasn't pounding with fear, but with a cold, metered rage. For 15 years, he'd built cases against cops just like Decker. Arrogant, blinded by their own power, and too lazy to do real police work. He knew their playbook. He'd just never been the subject of their report. He leaned forward, his voice low, and directed the officer in the passenger seat. "You are making a career-ending mistake. My credentials and badge are in a black leather holder in that glove compartment. Go look." The officer didn't even turn his head. "Tell it to the sergeant." Marcus leaned his head against the plexiglass divider, watching his children shrink into two small, terrified figures on the porch. It wasn't just anger he felt. It was a profound, burning shame, not for himself, but for the brutal lesson his children were being taught. A lesson he had spent his entire life trying to prove was a lie. The sterile box and the unveiling truth. The police station was a sterile box of cinder blocks and indifference. It smelled of bleach and stale coffee. They chained his cuffs to a metal bench in a hallway and left him there. Down the hall, he could hear Evelyn's voice, sharp and furious, demanding to speak to a lawyer and being ignored. After an eternity, Officer Miller appeared in the doorway, swaggering with borrowed confidence. He leaned against the frame with a smirk. "So, you're the big-shot federal agent?" he asked, his tone dripping with mockery. Marcus looked up, his gaze flat and hard enough to chip stone. "Supervisory Special Agent Marcus Thorne, Atlanta Field Office. My credentials are in the glove compartment of the Lincoln Navigator you illegally impounded." The smirk on Miller's face dissolved. He blinked, the color draining from his cheeks. "Why? Why didn't you say something before?" "I did," Marcus replied, his voice utterly devoid of emotion. "Repeatedly. You and your sergeant chose not to listen." The young cop suddenly looked like a boy playing dress-up. I gotta go check on something." He scurried away. Minutes later, Sergeant Decker appeared. His face was a mask of contempt. "You're sticking to that story? Your badge is in the car?" Marcus gave a single slow nod. Black leather case, bureau seal embossed on the front, left side of the glove box. Decker stared at him for a long, hard second, then turned on his heel and walked away. The wait was excruciating. 10 minutes felt like an hour. Finally, The sound of hurried, panicked footsteps echoed down the hall. It was Miller. His face was as white as a sheet. The bravado was gone, replaced by raw, undiluted terror. They had found it. "Agent Thorne, sir," he stammered, entering the hallway as if it were a minefield. We located your identification. On behalf of the department, I want to apologize. This has all been a terrible miscommunication." "Stop," Marcus said. His voice was quiet, but it carried an authority that made Miller physically recoil. "Do not insult my intelligence by calling this a miscommunication." Miller swallowed hard, his atoms apple bobbing. "Right. Yes, sir. I'll get these cuffs off you immediately." Minutes later, Marcus was rubbing the circulation back into his wrists at a metal table when they brought Evelyn in. Her eyes were blazing. "They had the nerve to tell me it was a simple mix-up," she seethed. That's when a man in an ill-fitting suit walked in. Not a cop. This had to be the man in charge, Chief Wallace. He sat down without an introduction or an apology. "We confirmed your identity, Agent Thorne," he said, his voice flat. "Took you long enough, Chief." Marcus shot back. "You have to understand, when we get a call from a concerned resident in that part of town." "No," Marcus cut him off, his voice dropping to a dangerous level. "I don't have to understand a thing. Your men had multiple opportunities to de-escalate. My wife told them she had proof of rental. They dismissed her. I identified myself as a federal agent. They put a knee in my back. This failure is on you and your department." Drummond cleared his throat. "Given the situation, I'm prepared to have all charges dropped and waive the impound fee for your vehicle." "Charges?" Evelyn exploded. "You can't drop charges that never should have existed. You can't waive a fee for a vehicle you illegally seized." "Don't try to buy our silence, Chief," Marcus said, leaning forward. The predator was awake. "That won't undo what you did to my family. So, here's exactly what happens now. First, I want the full unredacted incident report, the 911 transcript, and the body cam footage from every single officer on that scene. I want it on my desk by 0800 tomorrow. Second, the moment I leave this building, I am initiating a formal request for a federal investigation into your department's pattern and practice violations. Third," he paused, letting the words hang in the air, "you have a sergeant and an officer who chose to escalate, to ignore evidence, and to abuse their authority. Their careers are now in your hands. You will deal with them, or I will." Marcus stood, his large frame casting a shadow over the stunned chief. "And one last thing. While you were in here trying to figure out how to bury this, my 13-year-old son and my 9-year-old daughter were left alone on a dark porch in a town where they just watched men like you arrest their parents for nothing. You don't get to just walk away from that." He and Evelyn turned and walked out, leaving the chief sitting speechless in the stale, quiet room. The firestorm and the reckoning. The ride back to the rental was silent. As they pulled into the driveway, two small figures launched themselves from the porch steps. "Dad!" Ethan cried, running to the car. The raw relief in his son's voice was a punch to the gut. Marcus pulled him into a fierce hug. "You did good, son," he whispered. "You took care of your sister. I'm so proud of you." Ethan buried his face in his father's shoulder. "Dad," he mumbled, "that man, the neighbor." He stood across the street and watched the whole time. Marcus's gaze locked onto the house with the single porch light burning. A silhouette moved behind the curtain. The caller. Inside, the rental agreement sat in plain sight on the kitchen island. His jaw tightened. He walked back onto the porch and dialed a number he knew by heart. "Thorne," he said when the line connected. "Get me Director Novak's office. I'm filing a complaint against officers in Starling Cove, Florida. Flag all body cam footage before it disappears." He paused, his voice turning to ice. "No, not work-related. It's personal. They came after my family." Later that night, a soft knock. It was Officer Miller, nervously holding Marcus's badge holder. "I saw the footage from my camera," he stammered. I'm sorry, sir." Marcus studied him for a long moment before taking the badge. "That's a start," he said, and quietly closed the door. It wasn't nearly enough. The call came before sunrise. It was Director Isabel Novak herself. "Marcus, I read your report. It's bad." "I know," he said, pacing the lawn. "Are you ready to take this public?" she asked. "I'm giving them one chance to do the right thing," he replied, "but I won't wait forever." "It might be too late for that," she said. "A neighbor's security camera caught the arrest. The footage hit the internet an hour ago. It's already spreading." Marcus's phone began to explode. By 10 a.m., the video had hundreds of thousands of views, and the Starling Cove PD had issued a pathetic statement about reviewing an incident. "They're trying to get ahead of it," Evelyn said with disgust. "They can try," Marcus replied, opening his laptop. Around noon, there was another knock. It was the neighbor, Mr. Henderson. I saw everything," he began stiffly. "Just want to say sorry." Evelyn stared at him, arms crossed. "Was it you? Did you call them?" He wouldn't meet her eyes. "I wasn't sure what was going on." Marcus stepped up, his voice calm but lethal. "Let me get this straight. You saw a family unloading groceries. No shouting, no broken windows. And your first instinct was to call in a felony." I didn't mean for it to go like that, but it did," Marcus said, his gaze unwavering. "And you have to live with that." Henderson gave a defeated nod and shuffled back to his house. 3 days later, the fight was in a press conference room in Washington, D.C. Marcus leaned into the microphone. "My name is Special Agent Marcus Thorne," he began, his voice commanding silence. 3 nights ago, I was thrown to the ground in front of my children because a neighbor decided my family didn't belong. The officers who responded didn't ask questions. They saw a description, and they acted like we were a threat." He paused. "My badge was in the glove box, but that shouldn't matter. It shouldn't take a federal title to be treated like a human being." The video of his arrest passed 1 million views that night. The fallout was a firestorm. 2 weeks later, a grim-faced Chief Wallace announced the results of the full investigation. Sergeant Decker was fired. Officer Miller received a 60-day suspension without pay. The next day, facing a vote of no confidence in a federal inquiry, Chief Wallace tendered his resignation. And across the street from the Thorne's vacation rental, a "for sale" sign went up on Mr. Henderson's perfect lawn. Justice, once delayed, had finally been delivered.